In this video, we'll be looking at when the coefficient of n is not 1. So let's look at one example here. We have a sum from n equals 1 to infinity of 1 over 4n minus 2 minus 1 over 4n plus 2. So we're going to compare the denominators. We always want the first term to be the larger one. So let's do a quick check for that. We know that 4n plus 2 is greater than 4n minus 2. Okay? Because the 4n's are the same, and then if you add something, that's bigger than if you subtract something. So when I flip it, the inequality changes. So that means 1 over 4n minus 2 is greater than 1 over 4n plus 2. Now I move on to step 2. I want to see how far apart is 4n minus 2 with 4n plus 2. So let's say I made a number line. It's 4n minus 2. And I want to get up to 4n plus 2. So we're just adding 1 every time. So we have to go to 4n minus 1. That's 1. 4n. 4n plus 1. 4n plus 2. So we see this is 4 away. They're 4 away from each other. So the next thing we need to do is look at the coefficient of n. Notice they're both 4. They're 4 apart from each other. So we're going to take the 4 apart divided by the coefficient of n, which is also 4, to get 1. Okay. This means we need only one term. Which term are we going to use? We'll always use the large term. So one large term. Or larger, I guess. The larger one, we said, is the 1 over 4n minus 2. Okay, so we need one term of this. Which term do we use? Well, you always want to use the first one. And that is when n is equal to 1. So we're going to plug in n equals 1 into 1 over 4n minus 2 to get 1/2. So what this comes down to is this telescoping series converges to 1/2. Let's look at another example. We have the sum from n equals 1 to infinity. 1 over 2n plus 3 minus 1 over 2n plus 1. Notice that I always want to have the bigger term in front. So what is bigger, 1 over 2n plus 3 or 1 over 2n plus 1? Right, so we want to see which one is bigger. Well, in general, 2n plus 3 is greater than 2n plus 1. So if I flip both sides, I change the inequality. So really, the 1 over 2n plus 1 is greater. So this needs to come out in front. The way we're going to do this is you have to factor out this negative. So let's say if I pull out this negative, now I'm going to have 1 over 2n plus 1 minus 1 over 2n plus 3. And then we're going from 1 to infinity. Okay, so 1 over 2n plus 1 is greater. Now we can proceed to step 2. Step 2 says how far apart is 2n plus 1 from 2n plus 3? If you draw a little number line, we start off with 2n plus 1 and go up by 1 until we reach 2n plus 3. So this is 1 away and this is 2 away. So they're 2 apart from each other. Okay, so they're 2 apart. You want to take that and divide it by the coefficient of n. They're both 2. So we're going to divide by the coefficient of 2. To get 1 as the answer. Okay, so that means we're going to use one of the larger term. Now larger, we said, is the 1 over 2n plus 1. And we want the first term. So we want 1. We want the first term. The first term starts at n equals 1. So if I plug in n equals 1 in here, I have 1 over 2 times 1 plus 1, which is 1/3. But keep in mind, we also factor out a negative. So don't forget to include your negative. So this sum converges to negative 1 over 3.